Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Salatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin Sayyidina Maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in amma ba'du. To the Honorable Mr. Mujab as a lecturer of Islamic History of Islamic Civilization subject, and to all my friends that right now watching this video, I hope you in good condition, so you can watch this video until the end. So in this video, in this occasion, I will try to doing my midterms by answering the question of the midterms of history Islamic civilization subject. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, the first question. Please explain the grade of scope and objective of Islamic cultural history learning comprehensively, and what are the urgency in learning Islamic cultural history. Okay, so if we are talking about the scope of uh, Islamic cultural history learning and the level of the competence that must be achieved by student in educational process, that is already formulated in the government regulation number 19 of 25th concerning about the national education standards, which is in that regulation that some the scope of the scope of material and level of competence outlined in the criteria regarding graduate competences, study material competence and subject competence and learning syllabus that must be met by students at certain levels and types of education. So, if we talking of the scope of Islamic cultural history, we know that it's already different by level of the school. We know the level of school. We know like madrasah ibtidaiyah, madrasah nawiyah, and madrasah aliyah. The material in this every level of the school are different. For example, in madrasah ibtidaiyah, Islamic cultural history will discuss about the history of pre Islamic Arab society, and then history of the birth and apostolate of the Prophet Muhammad, the da'wah of the Prophet Muhammad, and the some event that occurring in the era, such as the hijrah of Prophet, and then Fathu Mecca, and then maybe we'll discuss about even during the Khulafa Rashidin and the struggle and the struggle that Prophet Muhammad faced. And in the Madrasah Sanawiyah, the Islamic cultural history will discuss about the story of Prophet in Mecca and Medina, and then we will discuss about Islamic civilization during Khalifah Rasidin, and then next Islamic development during the some dynasty Umayyah, Abbasiyah, Ayyubiyah, and then to the development Islam in Indonesia. And in a madrasah aliyah level, we will go more further. Islamic cultural history will discuss about the da'wah of the Prophet Muhammad in the period of Mecca and Medina, and then the leadership of the Ummah after Prophet Muhammad died, and the development of Islam in the classical, medieval, and modern period, and then the development of Islam in Indonesia and the world. So, from the material that already I said, the scope of Islamic cultural learning and objective, we can divide it into several material. The first is history of Islam. By learning history of Islam, it aims to understand students about the development of Islamic history and its central role in world history. The second, about Islamic culture. What the goal for students is to introduce students to aspect of Islamic culture in order to appreciate and understood the cultural heritage. The third, Islamic values. Uh, it 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 have goals to help students understand and applying Islamic values in everyday life. And the fourth is Islamic influence. In the Islamic influence, it have goals to provide insight into how Islam influenced the development of the world and how the world influences Islam. So vice versa. And the fifth is the development of society and civilization. It have aims so students are able to explore about the impact of Islam and in the development of society and civilization. So if we talk about the urgency of learning Islamic cultural history, we have three urgency. The first one is philosophical urgency. By learning Islamic cultural history, with will create a deep understanding of Islamic teachings, values, and goals, which help students develop a philosophical and ethical thinking in their lives. And the second, about sociological urgency. Islam is one of the big religions in the world that has the largest following in the world. Understanding Islam can help students become more tolerant and knowledgeable as a global citizens, as well as being as well as being able to interact with diverse societies. And the third is a theoretical urgency. As part of educational curriculum, Islamic cultural history uh, will help the student to develop analytical abilities, to critical thinking and historical understanding. It will support their understanding of the relationship between religious history and science, civilization, and culture, and the other. Okay, next, the number second is please explain the material object and formal object of Islamic cultural history and the steps in the development of SKI material. So, if we talk about the material object and formal object, the first is material object in Islamic cultural history. Material objects, it had means that the material to be taught in the subject. So the for the example, in the Islamic cultural history, the material is such as history, and then culture, social development, science, and all that related to Islam. For example, in the material, the Islamic cultural history material, such as the history of the Prophet Muhammad, uh, the history of Islamic civilization, and the history of uh, science in Islamic tradition. That is the example of in Islamic cultural history material object. Then the formal object of Islamic cultural history, uh, it has meaning that the goals, the aims, or the competency that to be achieved by student through the learning process by learning the SKI material. So the material object is the material, and the formal object the goal or the purpose of learning SKI, Islamic cultural history material. For example, the formal object is to understanding Islamic historical and cultural concept, value, and influence of Islam in the world history and development. So, how the steps to develop the Islamic cultural history material? I think you guys already know. We can identify the learning objective first, and then we can select the material selection, select the material, and then organize the material, and then you have to prepare the learning plans, learning implementation, and learning evaluation, and then you just reflection and correction. So we go to the number three. What was the social, political, and economic condition of pre-Islamic society, and what was the urgency of knowing this question for Islamic cultural history scholars? Okay, uh, we will uh, we will learning about the condition of uh, Jahiliyah society. The first one is a social condition. Arab society during the pre-Islam, we know them as a Jahiliyah, uh, which uh, in the social condition they have low morality. They often engage in practice considered immoral, such as idolatry, intertribal warfare, and a lavish lifestyle full of worldly pleasures. Uh, there are so many problems in that uh, period, in Jahiliyyah period, such as they are doing a gambling, drinking, and abuse of women are often rampant in society. And in the political condition, the political system during Jahiliyyah period was based on the tribe. So it resulted in rivalries and conflict between uh, each tribes to another tribes. And the presence of an effective central government is almost non-existent, and authority is largely in the hands of the leader of the Kabila. We know as a Kabila. And in the economic condition, we know that the majority of Arab work as a traders, farmers, and rulers, and most of the economic life center on the caravan trade. And why it is important for us to knowing this knowledge. Yeah, this is important because when we understand the condition of society before Islam came, it will help us to see the significant development brought about teaching of Islam. So we can see the differences before Islam coming and after Islam coming. When Islam came, the new teachings brought significant change in social, in moral, in political, economic aspect of Islam touch of values such as Tawhid. We know that only one God, that is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Islam taught the better ethics, emphasis on justice, and changing political system, and more fair economic arrangement will help lift Arabic society from the time of Jahiliyyah to a more advanced civilization. And by understanding the development of the Islamic religion and the huge role it played in transforming Arab society and the Islam world at large. The number four, please describe what were the achievements of progress during the Umayyad dynasty and the reason for the banquet achieved at the time. Okay, yeah, we will discuss about the achievement during the Umayyad dynasty. So many achievement in Umayyad dynasty when it comes to glory time of Umayyad dynasty, such as if we talk about the military field, the Umayyad dynasty succeeded in expanding its territory to cover most of Asia, Africa, and Europe. They have a strong military capabilities. And the second, in the political field, the Umayyad uh, developed a system of government that allowed the appointment of caliphs based on their expertise and capabilities. So, with this system will reflect progress in more efficient government. Next is in the social and cultural. We know that the Umayyad dynasty support the development of Islamic art and culture. We can see the proof right now, such as Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem and Damascus Mosque and the Mosque of Cordoba. That is Umayyad dynasty heritage. The fourth is in a science field. The Umayyad dynasty established centers of knowledge that supported science such as Qiraat, Hadith, Nahwu, Fiqh, History, and other. And they translating the books from foreign language into Arabic language, so it can be learned by the local society. And then they are also develop the infrastructure. So many factories, building, mosques, orphanage, and other that built in this Umayyad dynasty era. And then the what what the reason for the banquet achieved by Umayyad dynasty? So the success factor of the Umayyad dynasty include wise leadership, responsibility in uniting Muslim, and the performance of Islamic community that were active in supporting the development and spread of science and religion. Uh, Well-known sources such as the Cambridge History of Islam by the and the Venture of Islam by Marshall G.S. Hodgson can provide a deeper understanding of the causes of this progress. There are some factors such as the first one is effective and wise leadership by the Umayyad caliphs. The second is strong military capabilities that allow expansion of fiefdoms. The fourth is support for science and the art by the government and intellectual elite. The fourth is tolerance toward different groups and cultures that contribute in cross-cultural exchange of knowledge and influences. The last question. Please explain please explain the model of leadership succession during the Khulafaur Rashidin period and how it differs from the model of leadership succession in the Abbasidian dynasty. Explain in detail the background of the discrepancy using historical causality analysis that throws are relevant reference sources. So, we will compare the model of leadership during the Khulafaur Rashidin and the Abbasidian dynasty. Okay, we will discuss about the Khulafaur Rashidin first. So, in the during the time of Khulafaur Rashidin, that is after the death of Prophet Muhammad, leadership in Muslim took place in the form of caliph leadership. We know all. about that, already about that. The leadership succession model in this period is characterized by democratic election, such as uh, Abu Bakar, Usman, and Ali. Abu Bakar, Umar, Usman, and Ali were elected by the majority vote of the companions in process called we call it a shura or musyawarah or consultation. These leaders were considered caliphs who rule based on their nas and leadership qualities. And the second, continuity in election. So the model of leadership succession in uh, Akhlaq Rashidin is continuity in election. Leadership in this time were determined through election by the companion, as I said before. And this is based on what? Based on their leadership quality, loyalty, and knowledge of Islamic teaching. The second one, we will move to model of leadership succession in Abbasid dynasty. So, Abbasid were second dynasty after Umayyad dynasty. The model of leadership succession in Abbasid dynasty, that is the Abbasid established system of passing power, hereditary power in the family of Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib. Leadership election no longer involve Muslim votes or broad consultation. So it involved the Muslim society to choose the next leader of society. If we talk about legitimacy, the Abbasid claim descent from Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of Prophet Muhammad, as their source of legitimacy. They also took over the leadership with support from non-Arab figures and groups dissatisfied with the previous administration, that is Umayyad dynasty. So we call it a monarchy. That the next leader is the son by the previous leader. So, and then we will discuss about historical causality analysis. So, some factor that led to differences in the leadership succession model between Khulafaur Rashidin and Abbasid. The first one is heredity. Uh, as I said before, Abbasid based their legitimacy on heredity or monarchy, while Khulafaur Rashidin were chosen based on their abilities and equalities, regardless or heredity. And the second, Abbasid Umayyah was established because of the dissatisfaction with the Umayyah. This difference was also influenced by dissatisfaction by the Umayyad government, which was considered authoritarian and corrupt. Uh, and the third is power shift. The Abbasid emerged as alternative of Umayyad dynasty. And then in the Abbasid, the establishment of the Abbasid, it have Persian cultural influence, which encouraged them to implement new dynasty succession system. So the differences in leadership succession model between Khulafa Rashidin and Abbasid reflect a change in understanding of the legitimacy and determination of leadership in Islamic history. It is the result of historical, social, cultural, and political factors that influence both periods. So it depends on their period. So what the consequence by these different section models? In the government influence, In the Khulafa Rashidin, model of succession is based on democracy, election created morally and religiously stronger leadership. While the Abbasid dynasty, the model of succession focused more on hereditary power. And about cultural and identity diversity, the Abbasid allow for greater cultural and identity diversity within the territories they control, as they support Persian culture and support the development of science, art, and literature. And about the scientific and cultural development, the Abbasid era is known as the Islamic Golden Age, during which there were rapid development in science, philosophy, medicine, mathematics, and art. And about the change in Islamic identity, the Abbasid model of succession shows a change in Islamic identity, with more elements of Persian culture adopted. This creates an Islam that is more inclusive and tolerant of cultural and ethnic diversity. That is different about the uh, Abbasid model of succession than Khulafaur Rashidin model of succession. So the conclusion is the differences in leadership succession models between Khulafaur Rashidin and Abbasid reflect a change in understanding of legitimacy, power, and leadership of Islamic world. This created significant consequences in the development of Islamic history, culture, and identity. Analysis of historical causality shows that these changes were influenced by historical, social, cultural, and political factors that developed at that time. So that is my answer for the five question for the midterm of history of Islamic civilization. Thank you for your guest attention. I will end in this time. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.